Welcome everyone to Show Your Work. I'm extremely pleased to get this off the ground tonight. Thank you all so much for coming out. It's really exciting to see everyone here. And again, we're live streaming. Hello to the live streamers. I'm excited too to be doing that for the first time ever with this event. So a few remarks about Show Your Work. And I'm usually not a note reading kind of guy, but for this specific event, I'm not taking any chances of saying the wrong thing. So welcome to Show Your Work. A little short description of what you can expect tonight. Show Your Work is an opportunity for members of the Pittsburgh community to show off the projects and the ideas and the work that they are putting together. This work especially involves technology, and tonight they'll receive constructive feedback from you and our panel of experts, who I'll be introducing momentarily. Basically, it's a pitching event, but library style. So why do this at the library, you ask? The library is the original place for gathering and sharing information and ideas as part of a community, and it remains so today. Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh makes this possible through numerous locations throughout the city of Pittsburgh. Whenever you go to a library, someone is working on something. It's why we say Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh is books and so much more. Like I said, I'm not used to notes. The library is basically your portraits. What we do and achieve in our libraries paints a portrait of ourselves. Show Your Work is about adding a very colorful splash of paint to that portrait by bringing everyone together to a night of formal yet fun sharing of the achievements of your community. I was looking for an obligatory Dorian Gray reference there, but couldn't come up with one. So now the rules of the evening. Everybody gets 5 minutes to present, which frankly will be closer to 7 or 8 tonight because we have 4 presenters, so it gives a little bit more time. There'll be 5 minutes of feedback from our expert panel and also time for questions from you. And then everyone will walk away completely inspired to come up with projects of your own. Ooh, and something I forgot that I wanted to add is that we will be doing another Show Your Work April 28th of 2016. So prepare to come to that, and more importantly, if you have any ideas, get ready to submit and spread the word. And now I want to introduce our panel members tonight, and I'm going to begin with a little history and a little story. Show Your Work began last year around this time. It was begun by our Director of Digital Strategy, Toby Greenwald. And at that time, we had a similar setup, and we had one presenter who displayed a project they made using the library's 3D printing services. And so that purple object you see up there was created by some people, and they used us to make that cool box. Well, I tell that story because at least 2 of the members of this panel I connected to through our 3D printing services, and our CLP member, who I'll introduce too, is one of the people who does 3D printing at the library. So a little bit of library innovation in full circle from last year to this one. And now, our awesome experts. If you guys want to grab the mic and just say hello and where you're from after I say your name, let's do it. Start with Greg down there. I think you'd have to turn it on, possibly. Greg Kotikia.
Hi, I'm Greg Kotikia. I'm with the University of Pittsburgh. I'm the director of the Blast Furnace, which is a student accelerator at Pitt.
Jim Kimple, who I've worked with on 3D printing and talked to some of his classes about it.
Yes, thank you for having me tonight. I'm glad to be here. I teach information systems and operations, both to undergraduate and graduate students at the University of Pittsburgh.
And you may be familiar with this gentleman's voice, but not his face. This is Josh Rollerson of WESA.
Hi, I'm Josh. I don't always wear the headphones around, so very happy to be here. I have no business or tech background. I'm completely unqualified to hear your pitches, but I'm very excited to be here. I love to be inspired by people doing creative things, so thanks for inviting me.
And finally, with a slide all her own, is Irene Yelovich, who is the first ever CLP staff member to sit on the expert panel.
Hi, I'm Irene Yelovich, and I am the Patent and Trademark Librarian at CLP, and I also do 3D printing and work with makerspace projects at CLP.
All right, enough of us. Now we're going to get to our presenters. And the first here is Eleanor presenting about EE books.
Hi, everyone.
Wherever you want.
Great.
I think you can go like this.
Okay. And is this something I can use?
Yes.
Great.
That way it makes sense.
Cool. Hi, guys. My name is Eleanor Haglund. I'm a student at Carnegie Mellon, a senior in creative writing with a minor in psychology. And I work with Project Olympus. I'm an innovation scholar. And I'm here to bring you EE books tonight. So, what I'm working with is a huge problem. It takes over $75,000 and more than 2 years of time to create an enhanced ebook, which is an ebook with media such as sound, animations, interaction, maybe dynamic footnotes. And then even once you've created this very expensive and time-consuming book, you then have to pay someone even more money and take even more time to export it to Kindle, EPUB, iBooks, so people can actually read what you've created. I love that we're in a library for this presentation. So we have these big problems. What we're creating is a software solution, a builder, something easy to use that allows authors to drag and drop their content, their text, everything they need into their format and export it easily to iBooks, Kindle, EPUB, whatever they need to get their stuff out there. This is our beautiful prototype. I promise we're making it prettier. But we're making it easy to use. We're making it simple. We're using non-technical stuff. We're not using HTML. Well, the author would not be using HTML. It's something that everyone can use. It's kind of democratizing the world of creation of enhanced ebooks. This is our team. I'm in the middle. God, these are huge. So I'm obviously a creative writing major with psychology, and I'm an innovation scholar, so I'm kind of the business person. Then we have Shirley Park. She's our creative director. She has graduated from the ETC, the Entertainment Technology Center, with her master's, and she's built enhanced ebooks before. And then we have John Pune, a computer science and computational physics major at Carnegie Mellon. So we have technical, we have design technical, and we have business all together. We're working with a huge market. It's amazing to me that no one's tried to do this before. It's $14.5 billion right now, and it's growing very fast to $22 billion in 2017. The way we want to harness this market is we want to create a SaaS model, a software as a service model, that will allow for a monthly subscription of $30 a month that would be dormant if the person wasn't using it. So we only charge you when you're actually getting the benefits of our service. And then we also add a marketplace, which would allow the author to harness the content from these people who are musicians, artists, and bring them into their books. Who's our competition? Our main competition is iBooks Author and InDesign CC, but they're not creating the export to all of the people that they need to be, and they're kind of difficult to use. So where are we now? We're creating a prototype, and we're investigating the market, seeing where it leads us. We have advisors in the business side and also the enhanced ebook side. One of our mentors has over 30 years of experience in the enhanced ebook industry. And that's it. So I think we have time for questions from either you guys or you guys.
You have the Twitter handle?
I have my Twitter handle. It's at Eleanor Haglund.
Okay.
You described this as a huge problem. I'd like to understand a little bit more. How many people today are using iBooks Author, Design CC, or cobbling together some other tool or set of tools to build this, to build this type of a book?
Yeah, that's a good question, and we're doing that in our market discovery right now. We're trying to assess the numbers. We can't quite access InDesign CC's numbers or iBooks authors' numbers, but we are investigating that, so I can't give you a hard and fast answer.
Do you see those standalone tools, though, as substitute competitors long range, if this is as large a market as you're saying, that they could actually incorporate these types of features that you and others are building standalone and eventually kind of subsume the space?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Our main competitive advantage with iBooks Author is that because they're owned by Apple, they want to keep things in their business. They don't want to be helping Amazon or the EPUB market. With InDesign CC, it's a little different because they don't have any reason to keep it within a certain thing, but I don't like that this is being broadcasted, but they've done a great job of being.
We won't tell anyone.
They've done a great job of doing the export that they're doing right now. They only export to EPUB, and a lot of people are very dissatisfied with that. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm an artist and I'm doing some children's books.
Yeah.
With the artwork, would it keep the integrity when you drop it into your program?
That's the hope. It would keep the integrity. We would not release something that wouldn't keep the integrity of the art. The point of the builder is not to have something like InDesign CC where it kind of shifts everything around and messes with your work. We want to keep that exactly where it is. And it's funny that you mentioned children's books because that's the market we're looking at first.
Okay, great.
That would probably fit well in my MBA classes. I think they'd get the children's book idea just right on there. I like the idea of the marketplace. And if I understood you correctly, if I have an idea or the artist over here, they can make their content available and other authors can incorporate that into their books. So what's the motivation for, and the economic model for people to spend their time and then make their content available for other people?
Well, it's a great way for young artists and sound designers to get their work out there. And it would also be a way of making some money. We're charging prices that would be comparable to something that they would get if they were getting a commission.
Okay.
And we would be charging a premium for unique designs. So if you had something and it was a set and it could only be used once, it would be much more expensive than something that everyone could buy for $2 and use in their books.
And so if I were to publish something or bring in the artwork and it's used in 50 different books, it's like a royalty?
Yeah.
Are you looking to stay Amazon Kindle compatible, or in the future are you looking to do kind of a partnership with Amazon and kind of go directly to that kind of marketplace as well?
We're hoping to stay compatible with all of the formats, basically, because I believe that that's a big asset to authors who are trying to get their content out there. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
If you were looking just to stay compatible with their formats, or if you were looking to, in the future, have a pipeline directly to their marketplace as well with a partnership with them directly?
We're not specifically looking for a partnership with Kindle or Amazon right now. It's funny that a lot of people think of Kindle and they think of their e-reader, the paper that everyone kind of uses and has their light on while they're doing it. But that's actually not compatible with a lot of the interactions and animations that we have. So the only device that they have right now is the Kindle Fire that would be compatible.
I'm curious about who would be, I guess, mainly creating the content. Is it mainly for like independent, self-published authors, or are you looking to partner with publishers, like bigger publishers, or who's going to be the main user of this?
So that's both a stage question and or a startup question. So we are starting with self-published authors. We think that they will be the main driver of the market. They're looking for ways to differentiate themselves, and they'd be the most willing to invest time in this. In the future, we're not opposed to working with publishers. Deeper pockets, faster process. But I really think that this can be a great model for self-publishing authors to do this.
Are you thinking ahead to other formats, audiobooks? Do they have a place in your plans in the future?
Yeah, well, we're actually, I don't know if we're looking towards audiobooks, but we are using them as a guide integration with our development, we would really easily be able to add the features for that would enable the authors to work with that.
I'm curious as a writer, as an
Yeah.
artist,
Yeah.
I mean, what you think of these other media elements is bringing to the literature. What kind of possibilities do you see?
Yeah, well, I think of it as kind of, some people think of adding images and they're like, oh, it's taking away from the literary aspect of it. And I think that it's all kind of one language. So in the same way that in a children's book, you can have like maybe not in a children's book, when you're writing, you could say something like, oh, the boy was very animated that day, and then you can have an image of him like sleeping on the floor, drool coming out of his mouth, just like totally inactive. And in that it adds to what was written. I think that having this in the enhanced electrical format, then that can add in that way. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, I have a well-developed genre called visual novel with text, images, and music.
Yes.
And it's popular enough. I'm sure that there's been a lot of software developed for creating these visual novels.
Yeah.
How do you see your product in relation to this genre?
Yeah, so we're actually looking at trying to integrate into the Chinese way of reading books as well. I think that, as far as I've heard, it's very electronic based.
Yes.
So we're trying to bring America into that and try and bring them forward. I think that as far as the graphic novel, that's kind of a market being covered by a product called Madefire, and they're doing a lot of the graphic novel images, sound in that vein, which is why we're working with a different market.
All right.
Great.
Thank you. Should mention that by the end of the evening, there will be probably at least a half hour to 20 minutes for some networking if you want to ask more questions to the presenters. So thank you, Eleanor. Up next, we've got Kenny with involvement. Kenny, do you want to use the mic?
The mic? This mic? Should I? Or this mic? Yeah, I can use this mic.
And probably better for recording purposes as the magic is made. But hello, everyone. My name's Kenny Chen, and I'm super excited to be here. This is awesome. Carnegie Library is just amazing. It keeps blowing my mind. We didn't have this kind of stuff in Las Vegas growing up. But I'm really excited to talk to you about Involvement, which came out less than 2 months ago at the last startup weekend. A bunch of friends and I were talking about the challenges that we're facing a lot of nonprofits around the world, around the US, and here in Pittsburgh. And our idea was to tackle specifically the issue of volunteer engagement. And we hypothesized that we could help nonprofits better recruit and retain their volunteers by rewarding them with different kinds of perks and incentives at local businesses, really round out that volunteer ecosystem. And before I get into how that works, I just want to give you a sense of what the nonprofit sector environment looks like right now. As of 2014, there's been about 1.5 million nonprofits around the US, and that number continues to grow. Between 2001 and 2011, it grew by 25%. But at the same time, they're competing for about the same level of funding, or at least as proportionate to GDP, about 2% each year, and it goes up and down depending on the economy. So not only are they competing for limited funding, they're competing for limited and even a shrinking number of volunteers. Last year was the lowest level of volunteering in the past 10 years, about 25.4% of the US population, 62 million people, which may or may not sound like a lot, but is quite a bit less than what we really hoped for. And we attribute it to a few reasons. One, nonprofits have chronically limited capacity. Lack of funding, lack of man hours, lack of technical capacity, or just the ability to take on new technology and initiatives. On the opposite side of the coin, volunteers within the past 10 years in this information internet age have an accessibility issue when it comes to volunteer opportunities. If they're not competing well with your Facebook, with the Kardashians and whatever's trending, then who's going to find out about the great local opportunities that are around? And finally, both of them share a challenge around time. If things aren't efficient, if they aren't time effective, then no one's going to use them. So our idea is to take this limited resource, time, and use that to drive a lot more value. And it looks like a bit of the formatting went off, but that's okay. So once again, using time to drive rewards that will increase better recruitment and retention. And the way we do this is with a pretty innovative concept that we call time credits. And this is essentially social currency that people can only earn through volunteer hours. And so volunteers will work with local organizations, get time credits in return, which they can then spend at local institutions, businesses, for discounts, freebies, membership, anything that you can really think of. And businesses can really get creative with it. It doesn't quite stop there though. In order to earn these time credits, volunteers are encouraged to do a little bit more, to create some valuable content for nonprofits and businesses, the things that they're always looking for more of. So this could come in the form of a photo, an Instagram or Twitter tag, even just like a qualitative or quantitative assessment of what was it that you actually did during your time. And as this stuff is aggregated, volunteers can compare their contributions with people in the past and in the future and give the nonprofits a much more compelling, tangible story to work off of. So we're currently in the very early stages of an app development process. These are just mock-ups. I probably shouldn't say that, but that's all they are. And the way they would work is you can link it with your Facebook, create a profile for yourself with your interests, your geographic area, and have your friends on there as well. And we would send you notifications in real time based off of new volunteer opportunities that come up that align with your interests and maybe with your friends' interests, show who's going to what. And as you input content and gain time credits, you also have real-time access to new perks that are being offered by local businesses, whether they're free yoga classes or squeaky toys for your dog. It just generates a code and then you can redeem it once you go to that local business. And we're confident that this is going to work because some iteration of it has already been done in the UK. An organization called Spice Time Credits has been doing this for a few years, and they've really found some phenomenal results in driving this more engaged volunteer ecosystem. And they found that 81% of their volunteers say time credits had a positive impact on their quality of life. Even better, 46% learned new skills, 35% gained transferable work experience, and a lot of them found new friends and communities to get involved in. And that's really the essence here. We believe that if you empower volunteers to take a bigger stake in driving an organization and a business's and a community's goals and needs, then everyone's going to win. The volunteers get a better experience, and the nonprofits and the businesses get the kind of content, data, traffic, all of those kinds of things that they're most looking for. We've also got one more thing that we're testing right now. This is absolutely new, and it's what we call the Volunteer Challenge Grant. And as we have it right now, you often hear about matching donations and challenge funds where an anonymous donor has put aside $50,000, so every one of your contributions will be matched dollar for dollar, so you double your impact. And that still requires an organization to raise $50,000. What we're trying to do is make it so that with this promise of data and content, set-aside challenge funds that can be unlocked instead with volunteer hours. And this is a lot more compelling for volunteers to be champions and advocates, to go out to their friends and say, hey, I'm not asking you for money this time. All I want you to do is hang out with me on a Saturday afternoon and mentor some kids or pull some weeds out of a vacant lot. And not only will this earn you a few time credits, it'll also generate $30 worth of donations from this corporation, from this donor, towards this organization. And we're testing all of this. We, like I said, are just kind of in those really early stages, and we are looking for all the nonprofits, local businesses, volunteers who might be interested in getting involved, excuse me, in this kind of a process. And we are actually just about to start our first pilot. For the first 12 days of December, we have what we call our December Giving Days, and we're focused on 2 great local food-related nonprofits, being 412 Food Rescue and the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank. So anyone who volunteers with them during that time will receive paper time credits, which they can redeem. And so far, we've got 9 businesses lined up that are offering everything from free coffee to entry at the Kingsley Association, which is a rec center, and everything else. So if you're interested, please, tweet at us, Instagram us, find us on Facebook, and I realized I should have put an email on here, joininvolvement@gmail.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I've got a sign-up sheet and some brochures with me as well, so happy to pass this out. Thank you very much.
I really liked your presentation and your enthusiasm. I guess my question is, how do you stay in business? What's your business model?
Right. So one of the things we're trying to figure out is whether to incorporate as a nonprofit or as a LLC or a low-profit liability company. But the only real source of revenue that we've found to be potentially sustainable is if this volunteer challenge grant model works, and we take a small percentage of the volume that goes through us. That's comparable to every other crowdfunding service. 5% is a standard. Then, within about 3 years, we could be breaking even. Until then, wish us luck.
How would you be vetting the volunteers? Would there be any, I don't know, certain qualifications, or would teen volunteers be eligible for the same things as adult volunteers?
Yes, so for teen volunteers, at the moment, we're still trying to figure out some of the details around engaging minors. And we imagine it'll involve parent consent and all of those kinds of things. But currently, we're trying to tackle the issue of millennial engagement, those 18 to 35. Teens typically have their own volunteer systems through their schools, through young leadership councils. I don't remember what they're called. So every volunteer through this platform will maintain a profile of their skills, their interests, and other things. And one thing we've considered is implementing a rating system, or at least a system of reviews where nonprofits and volunteers can give each other feedback on how to improve each other. Because the last thing we want to do is to have volunteers show up but not be serious about the work that they're doing. So it would be a continuous vetting process.
I'm going to say, as somebody that works in a nonprofit, I think this is really exciting, and I think it's based on a really smart assessment of the nonprofit economy and where it's heading. And this isn't really a question, just some insight from my little corner of the sector. One of the problems that we're dealing with is, how do we grow our audience? How do we grow our audience? how do we bring in younger listeners that are going to sustain our organization in the future? And one of the ideas that's being thrown around a lot is volunteering, and we're really having to rethink what that means. My organization doesn't have like a real urgent need for people to come in and help with things, or at least we haven't figured out what that need might be. But what we're finding is people want to, particularly millennials, want to be engaged, and they don't want to just listen to the radio all year and be told twice a year for a week at a time to give us money. They want to actually be part of the organization, contribute something to it. So I think even more than the reward component of it, like the social component, I think is really smart. I think this is a great idea.
Thank you. And yeah, we really believe that the rewards should be a secondary component to it. It's the cherry on top that helps volunteers feel appreciated and brings that extra energy and social aspect to it. But by and large, it should still be mission driven and done out of passion and interest for an organization's mission. And as far as getting more people involved, I've had this conversation with nonprofits that don't typically work with volunteers, but we've always been able to find areas in which they can still engage volunteers, whether it's for event planning and management or collaborative types of initiatives with other organizations, and bringing them in there, having them involved in social media content, spreading the word, those things that they're just naturally inclined and able to. Yes?
Is your plan to have the nonprofits tag you as a member of involvement? And then that could eventually, if this really takes off, it would be like the good housekeeping seal. We're members of involvement.
Yes, definitely. So right now, there's a lot of nonprofit websites will have those like 2 or 3 things at the bottom. It is a EDV certified. It is Charity Navigator or GuideStar, A+ rating or 4 stars. And what we'd like to do is get to the point where we are robust and accredited enough, where we can say, this organization has a 4.7 out of 5 for volunteer engagement excellence, or in ratings, or among all of these criteria. And did that answer your question, or is there another component?
No, kind of, I could see the link, and also I was thinking like even a network. If you enjoy volunteering for this organization, you may also like this involvement organization.
Yes.
Cross-referencing.
Definitely, referrals and all of that. Yes.
First of all, I think it's a very clever idea, and I'm wondering, because we see the mock-ups, and I think it looks really nice from the volunteer side. I know how important it is for nonprofits to be able to track who's volunteering and their hours. What does it look like from the side of the nonprofit?
So we imagine that nonprofits will have more or less a similar interface, or at least the basics of it will be the same. But rather than having a personal profile, you'll have an organizational kind of homepage or landing page where you can go through and see every single volunteer that's worked with you, the kinds of hours that you've put out to the community, and time credits that have been redeemed, and hopefully, with the way the tagging system and our database, which is one of the bigger challenges that we're dealing with, if we have a good enough database that the entire history of content and contributions and things should all be accessible on the nonprofit side. Now we are starting more with like an iOS app development side, and then moving into web and Android. That was just what was recommended to us by our full stack developer. But we need to have separate ones for the volunteers, the nonprofits, and for the businesses. So
I liked your 3 R's. If I got them correctly, it was you recruit and retain through rewards. And I think one we've talked about tonight is just the power of relationships through the sharing. I know when I was involved, when I was younger, with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, because I knew somebody at work who said, hey Jim, this is a good thing, why don't you get involved? And then I got one of my buddies to be involved when I had to step away from that. So I think that's one you could add. And then the recognition as well, I think, is important. To just to say I was here and see people do that. My mechanical or operational question was, if I go and volunteer for 10 hours, how do you assure that I was actually there? And then when I go to claim my time credits, how do those get deducted? So I'm not like a deadbeat volunteer.
Right, and so part of the reason why we're starting with a smartphone app is that there's GPS geolocation that you can take. So they can easily check into a pin that we've dropped for that specific location. And usually there will be a representative from that nonprofit there. But part of why we encourage the photos and the content and
Right.
everything else are a multi-tier validation mechanism for that. And we'll be refining it as we go along.
I think your focus on millennials is good. I know the students with whom I work are very interested in helping out the community where they are and at home, so I like it.
Thank you very much.
I think on that note, we will say thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. So this came out of the last Startup Weekend Civic in September, and it was really a fantastic experience. There's actually one more coming up this weekend, so from tomorrow until Sunday, and it's a fantastic place to meet doers, makers, movers, and shakers all around town. So if you just search, Startup Weekend Pittsburgh, you can check it out, or I'm happy to send you more info if you come talk to me afterwards. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Our next speaker for tonight is one person with some actual hardware to demonstrate. If you don't want to, that's fine.
I think I talk loud enough, right? Okay, guys. This is from a project from a photographer called Eric Engelskill. It's called Removed Social. And when I was thinking about preparing this presentation, I thought this is just perfect for what I want to show you guys here. It's very clear what's wrong with this. This is people, in their everyday lives, hooked up to their phones, to their devices, like living their digital lives. What I liked about this project was the fact that by removing the device, he really amplified that effect by 1,000. This is how all of you look like when you're on the train on the way home, like, oh, let me just check my email. And when you're in the cafe with your buddies, and you're like, oh, I got an email, let me just check this while you guys talk. This is how we look. This is how we all look. And this is a big problem. Like, we still don't really know where this is going to end. A lot of people talk about the eye disorders. Nobody really knows how big this is going to be. This is like, we're still in the childhood of this problem. And many years from now, we're probably going to look back and say, like, oh my God, what were we doing, right? I don't have Facebook. I'm sorry. I don't know if I don't have Facebook. Social media for me is like on that table. Food, drinks, that's social media for me. But I'm also not going on the route of like, okay, then we should all be hermits and we should all say no to technology. Let's all go and live in a mountain. No. I think that's not the right way to go because you have to accept the times you live in, right? You have to live with them. So the problem is not in the technology, it's in its usage. And I think that the same technology that is now being used in a kind of isolating, alienating way can actually be used to connect people, to make them look in the eyes. And that's why you guys can continue looking at this screen for 3 hours. Nothing is going to happen there. I'm here, okay? I'm here. Look me in the eyes, please, okay? This was the challenge of CIMI. This is how CIMI started. CIMI means Collaborative Experiential Electronic Music Instrument. And just to really rewind very quickly to what brought me to CIMI and to this idea of kind of using the iPads and the smartphones kind of as a Trojan horse. Like, oh, people are going to think that this is about gadgets and technology. And it's not. It's just about looking people in the eyes and making something together. I'm a musician. I'm a classical guitarist, trained classical guitarist. That's where I come from. And my passion for the last 10 years, more than playing repertoire, has been to engage groups of people people, whether they're musicians or non-musicians, in the practice of music. Because music has that amazing power. Don't go yet, don't go yet. Resist the temptation, resist the temptation. I know I'm going to lose you for a couple of minutes. Okay, you go. I'll just keep talking. You guys can start. Get your devices out. You can start, because this is going to take at least 1 minute. I hope it's simple enough. And not all of you are going to be able to connect, I have to say. This is, like, some of you will. And so the challenge was, okay, music is a very powerful thing, but usually music also scares. Who of you plays musical instruments? Anybody plays a musical instrument? You don't play a musical instrument? No. If I brought a violin and I asked you, please, can you come here and play, how would you feel?
Intimidated.
Intimidated. Oh, I think I heard violin already. Interesting. This is going well. So that's exactly what I thought. Music at the same time has this amazing power of connect people, but it also scares people away that are not musicians, because there's the problem of the interface. A violin takes years and years to be able to do something minimally interesting in the violin or any other instrument. But then I thought, wait, people have devices that are based on touch. Musical instruments are based on touch. It's the same technology. And all of you are virtuosos on smartphones and tablets. You all can touch devices. You all can swipe. You all can tilt. You all can do all those things in your device. So the interface problem is taken out of the equation. So the other problem is, but then people are still by themselves, and they're looking at the screen, and they're making sounds by themselves. So that's why I thought about CME as something that is really inclusive. CME is here, guys, and this is what I was telling earlier to Kenny, that this is, in the software industry, is called a suicide, which is, I brought you guys a prototype, not properly tested, but I was so excited about it, I was like, yeah, you know, it might crash, but what, and why not? So, this is what I thought about. I wanted something that was really inclusive and democratic. From where I come from the music workshop world, we say the mantra is, if you're in the room, you're in the band. So it had to be maximally inclusive. And I didn't like the idea of an app. An app is still kind of, because we need to have access to Wi-Fi. Oh yeah, we don't have Wi-Fi here. Oh, we cannot play, right? Or then it's like, oh, this is iOS only. Sorry, Androids. You know what I mean? So that's why I thought actually the web is the way to go. Using HTML technology that keeps developing as we go. Like, see me, I'm just waiting for the correct API to come out. Like, oh my God, it came out. This is what I needed to make that thing on See Me. By using browsers, people already have the browser. They don't need to install anything. And you can have a laptop, you can have a desktop, you can have an Android, you can have iOS. That doesn't mean that it's flawless, because then you always rely on the quality of the browser, okay? People need to have an updated version and everything. But it's still the most democratic way of making music. People, with using their devices, make music together, okay? Who connected already? Who's making sound? I would like to know. Put your hand up if you think you connected already. Oh, starting to look good. Can you guys get up? People that connect, can you guys just start getting up, please? Let's make a little experiment here. So, the interface, as you guys can see, is pretty minimal, which was part of it, okay? I could put the interface there, but I decided not to connect this computer to give a chance to more people to connect. So basically, you know, you have, oh, sorry. Okay. You just have, if you go up and down, you control the volume. If you go left and right, you change the pitch, right? Pretty simple, okay? So everybody now look at me, Seamers, look at me and don't play. I'm gonna do a little experiment. Oh, somebody needs to play now. You left a hanging note. Ah, thank you. Like I said, it's not flawless, but it's more the human that that needs to do. Okay, so very simple conducting effort here, and I really like you guys not to look at the device. Okay, there is an obvious pun about the word "see me," which is, "Can you see me?" Of course, you know, of course, it had to be. So, look at me. Let's arrange a very quick conducting language. Okay, if I do this, I want you guys just to choose one note and just hold your finger there and stay there. And then if I go down or up, you just move your finger up and down and up accordingly, okay? But wait for the cue, okay? I'm the maestro here. Try to move down your finger. Let's go up now. Stop. Thank you. Let's do a short note now, okay? So if I do like a little karate move, you guys just do a very short kind kind of staccato thing, okay? Are you guys ready? Let's see how this goes. Just one, guys. One note. Crescendo. Chopin. That's it. Just one presentation. CME is now in its ongoing prototyping stage. The hardware version, for now, I only have the synth implemented, but just so you guys know, I also have a sampler, which is loads of fun, because you can record audio with your own device, and you can go around, you can go to the toilet, record some sounds there, come back, and then all the sound is uploaded to the server that runs here. There's going to be a lot of other cool features, like the use of the accelerometer, so that you can, there's a lot of neat stuff happening. And from January onwards, it's already going to be available as a service, which means not the hardware itself, because I still need to think about all of that. Like, oh, do I really want to get into that? I'm a musician, remember. And but as a service, like music workshops with CME will already start being available. Questions? Oh, maybe I should turn off the sound, because this is usually what happens when I play with 5-year-olds, but apparently. Like you can even, I thought already about so many ideas, even like, for example, a math lesson. Music is a lot about math, right? So understanding, for example, scales, like, okay, takes the double of the time, this takes the half, this takes a quarter of the time. Just understanding fractions. Just playing with music and say like, okay, you guys are gonna play, full beat. You guys play at half the speed, you play at the double of the speed. And from so on and so on. Even from, for example, the fact that you have a sampler, which allows you to have more of a sonic, like it's more about listening really to sound, and it's a completely different challenge. And then you can explore sound by altering the pitch, by creating loops, and really getting into the physics of sound, and do all sorts of experiments. I see a tremendous potential, and I've used it already. I've used it, see me in schools, in retirement homes, in all sorts of contexts.
Over to the expert panel.
Yeah, I was going to ask more about sort of the use cases you envision.
Yeah.
Talking about to classes, educational settings where you would be, I guess, the conducting or someone in your role. Would there be a way that you could just set this up in a public space, a museum or someplace, and just let people come in and play with it?
It's interesting that you asked that question. CME already had, actually that was funny enough, the original form of CME was an installation, because that was my final project for my master's. I wanted to have a concert where the audience would enter and without knowing that they were actually musicians, and that's what happened. Everybody entered thinking that they were going to see a performance, and then they were just invited to play an original piece where they were actually the musicians. So there is an installation called the CME Playground, and it's also available as one of the services. And I was already did CME Playground installations in Norway, London, Portugal, and actually in the Create Festival here in Pittsburgh, there was a CME Playground installation running, and it's a standalone thing. You can just be there, people connect, they get messages on their device that has kind of compositional instructions. But I still, to be honest, this is what I like. But yeah, but it's loads of fun. It's loads of fun.
It'd be a great library program.
Sure. Just send me an email.
So this is pretty much, in other words, a kind of garage band with several, devices playing together.
It's GarageBand without having to download GarageBand.
Right.
And without excluding people that don't have a compatible device with GarageBand. Right. But yes, it's kind of, because I believe there's, of course, I didn't show it, but there's the controller interface. So the cool thing about CME in relation to other apps that are already out there, most of the music apps are, first, they're mostly aimed at musicians. So they're tremendously complicated. They're full of knobs and sliders and all of this information that the common mortal really doesn't understand.
But GarageBand really takes away a lot, most of that.
But GarageBand still has one thing that doesn't do what CME does, which is you can really configure, you can have a central configuration of the whole setup. For example, I could just very easily come here and I can have access. It's also browser-based. So for example, if I'm the conductor or the teacher or whoever is running the session, I have a mixer. I can change everything here, and I can can just also quickly just say, oh, now we're going from classical orchestra to ethnic world music. And, oops, sorry, some mistake here. Load. Yeah, the interface still needs to be worked on, of course. It's still kind of very text-based, but this is still something
what
that...
you would change is then the instruments, the sampling, the sounds, right?
Yeah.
When you go to world music or
Yeah, you change all the instruments, but not just the instruments. You can automatically change the scale. You can change the register. You can make all sorts of options, how many notes that person has. And that's something that the software presents. You would have to go individually to each of them and make those options. This allows you for a kind of like a real instrument. Sometimes I get, when I do CME workshops, people ask me, oh, but I really would like to change the instrument. And I'm like, you know, actually, when I go to play with musicians that are in an orchestra, they cannot really turn the violin into a bassoon. You know, a violin, it's always a violin. And playing with limits, and really that's how I believe in creativity actually is about setting clear limits. Otherwise people don't get creative, people get scared and they run away. So by CME you can actually have a growing configuration. You can keep the complexity on your side because you are the expert. And you can pass complexity as people get ready for it. But you can also just have a one-note thing that anybody that can do this can play. And then you can configure it, the level of complexity accordingly. You can also have a group of professional musicians. I already had a quartet and a composer that composed an original piece for CME Quartet, which was loads of fun. And if there's composers out here, please, I'm open for them.
You mentioned connecting people.
Yeah.
So help me understand what success looks like in a year from now then, relative to that goal.
Well, for now, like in terms of like how to put CME out there, for now, like I said, it's going to be available basically as a service. Even if I still have the idea, because I really think, for example, like Irene said before, this would be a great device to have available for a library, that the library could actually have, or a museum, or a school, to actually own one. But I'm definitely not there yet. I'm daunted by the possibility of getting into that side. You know, like I have to begin remember my origins. I'm a musician. And it's like, oh, now I'm going to be a CEO of a software hardware company. You know what I mean? But as a service, I really
worked out all right for Les Paul.
Huh?
It worked out all right for Les Paul.
I don't know if it's going to work for Gilles Péchet. Yeah, but in a way, for now, I would like next year to be, for example, here in the community of Pittsburgh, to be able to already have the chance to put a lot of workshops out there and to try out CME in a lot of institutions and to kind of pass the word around. I think I've been here, I moved only in January to Pittsburgh, by the way. I came from Portugal. And now it's the time that I think that it's time for CME to get out of the cave. Also because I just cannot stand it anymore.
Is it possible to think of an application like when you go to the symphony and sometimes they feature a violinist or something, you would come out with your scene and people in the audience could create something with the Pittsburgh Symphony behind you.
Yeah.
How fantastic would that be?
It's funny because this was also definitely not arranged. I don't know you, right? We don't know each other. That's another one of the CME services. Because it's true, I thought about it, it's called CME Live, and it's open for musicians or composers that want to integrate, for example, audience participation in a piece where you can have the musicians on stage and then the audience join with their devices. That's exactly.
I think we have time for 2 more questions. You had your hand before, Emily.
You mentioned it's a service. I was just curious, is it a service that people would pay for or a free service?
Yes, yes. But it's going to be a tailor-made service, which means, because I'm a creative workshop leader, so what I do is devise tailor-made creative workshops for any given context, if it's for the elderly, or if it's for children, or if it's in a corporate world. You know what I mean? Like, I still have this dream about entering this big corporation and like make all those suits make music together. You know, like, there's something about it that I really like. Still haven't got the chance to do. Anyway, and then so basically upon contact and upon then everything can be negotiated. But yes, it's going to be a paid. I really need to start getting paid by this work, otherwise my wife is going to... Any more questions? Yes.
So it seems like you still have people potentially looking at their devices. Have you given thought into like alternative interfaces that could still work with the universal sort of smartphone, web browser type of thing, but would enable people to look around and interact with
This
each other?
device has been what it's still not, doesn't mean it's going to be the final one. I think there's still experimentation to be done with the device. But so far, just getting rid of like specific points in the screen where you need to touch, that was a very important thing. You know, like, it doesn't matter where you touch, you know you will produce sound. And that's what when I play my guitar, I know. I don't need to put my hands, I know this is going to produce a sound. And that was a big challenge. And until now, this has been the most intuitive solution. But the problem with a touch device is that it's bidimensional. I cannot do anything about that. Of course, the ideal scenario would be, oh, we should have a custom interface. But then, again, you're excluding, because people would need to buy. And the principle behind CB, actually, like Wesley had the trouble of getting these speakers. He didn't even need to do it, because we could have just used the sound that's already here. We could have used, like the idea is to use pre-existing technology that people already have. So if you go to a school and if the room is equipped with with the normal sound amplification for a computer, you can do a CD workshop. And that's the challenge. But of course, the touch device has that limitation. It would be amazing if you could grab it. That would be the thing. But unfortunately, maybe that's an idea for another innovator.
I think. I just didn't want to take the chance with these speakers tonight, so we went with these. And now we have our final presenter for the night. Presenting for Glimpse Global.
Sorry for running a bit late. I was coming from class. So, me and my friends from high school really sat down at a table at my house when we came back over winter break at the start of freshman year, and we were talking about how can we put our ideas together, how can we make a lot of money. And as the discussion went further and further, we finally realized that here we're seeing a bunch of intelligent guys with various diverse skill set. Why were we worrying about how we could make money when we could better the world by using our intuitiveness? So if you think of a traditional social media, it has a very stagnant, scrolling news feed. Information is populated in a way that's very modular. And when you look at it, you can see the most current events, but it's not really as engaging as you would want it to be. So our idea is to rehumanize the internet. We want your interactions with the people that you have on your social networks, as well as your interactions with the real world, to be brought back to the very personal level that we used to see it as. So what exactly is Glimpse? What exactly is Glimpse? A New Perspective, Glimpse Global. So essentially, we took our information, we populated it into a globular news feed. So all the information is populated exactly where it's happening on the globe. It's geopositioned to the exact location. So whenever you're posting a video or you have a video that your friend posts, you can actually see it exactly where it happened, click on it, and then you can be able to interact with it exactly where it's happening on the globe. And so we divided our globes into 3 different types of globes: the perspective, the passion, and the personal. The personal, you can think of it almost as your personal homepage, and that's what I'll talk about first. It's kind of like your homepage on Facebook. So when this is populated, it has your various different glimpses wherever they occurred around the world. So whether you went on spring break over in Cancun, or you were from Minnesota and you went there for a holiday, you can see where your videos happened around the globe, and when people click on your globe, they can see where you've interacted with the planet. The second globe is what we call the perspective, and we have this set up so people that are your first, second, or third degree connections you can see those videos. So that's going to be your friends, their friends, and their friends. And this is set up so you can not only be interacting with people that are connected with you, but also people that are interacting with the planet around you. So you're seeing people that are related to you in some way, but also being able to engage with the planet as a whole on various different levels. And then the last globe is the passion, and how we really characterize this is personalities, companies, various different industries that want to promote their own content. So whether it's Obama giving the State of the Union address, Sprite endorsing the slam dunk competition for the NBA, stuff like that, it'll be put, and so the people that really are interested in those people can follow them themselves and be able to engage with that content, but at the same time, we're not having ads bombarded to people that are not interested with them. And so one key thing we really wanted to do when we talked about our things, we didn't want to bombard people with all these notifications. So the way it's set up is, if someone is in your first, second, or third degree connection, they're in a location that's relevant to you, and they're talking about something that's interesting to you, it'll give you a notification. So me, I was born in America, but my parents are from Nigeria. So if I had a cousin who was talking about architecture and he was in Nigeria, I'd get a push notification of something relevant to me, something I'm interested in, something that could benefit me and I could probably want to take a part of. So our market for this thing. Just some key numbers. Twitter has about 284 million users per month. Facebook is sitting at 864 daily users. This has actually gone up since the last time we updated PowerPoint. It's over a billion at this point. There are 1.75 billion smartphones in the world, and 2.8 billion people have access to internet on a monthly level. Glimpse wants to be able to not just impact those people that have the handsets in their hand, we want to be able to impact the entire world as a whole, and I'll talk about how we're going to do that in a little bit in the future. So our value proposition. When we are talking about this issue, you're thinking, okay, yeah, it might be interesting to be able to see what's happening all over the world, but how is that interesting to me? And what Glimpse really wants to do is play from that interactions between the locations to be able to let firms know that people are from certain areas are interested in their products, and actually force the firms to actually make the videos and stuff in those locations. So you go from just having stuff on a globe to having Nike actually interacting with the people on the ground that are interested in their product. You go to having legislators being able to go to the areas where they know that they're going to have more impact and places that they know they have more support. So competitive analysis. Actually, as we were preparing for the Big Idea competition this past spring, Periscope and Meerkat started coming out. They were all the buzz at South by Southwest. And so oftentimes, like back before then, it used to be like, how is this valuable? Who wants it? Now the question I get is, how are you going to compete with these new players? And I feel that we have something very different from them. They want to more just show you what's happening. And the key thing that Glimpse really wants to do that's different is we want to be able to give you the interactions and the capacity to be able to interact with the situations right from your fingertips. And so that being said, that's going to be, when you see this notification, when you see the thing that's happening, it might be really cool, but I also know that, okay, if I see someone cutting down a tree in the rainforest, I can support a petition to stop that. If I see a wildfire happening somewhere and then no one's reporting that, I can go ahead and notify the local authorities. I can actually have an impact on the stuff I'm seeing versus just commenting and saying that's something I don't like, but I can't really do anything about it. And so our way we're thinking of spreading is, initially we just launched our app on the App Store this past Sunday. It's 1.0, so nothing, not exactly what we want yet, but we have a minimal viable product. We're hoping to push out that to our friends as we're doing our various college campuses. Hopefully that'll get to their friends and their surrounding networks, and as we continue to push, we can continue to push it and reach the entire global world. And so as I was talking before, way we can generate revenue. When you think of being able to take this information, and people are always talking about big data nowadays, when I can take information and say, Nike, when people that are very interested in your products seem to be in this specific area, they seem to be constantly interacting with this thing, and they seem to be interested and they want to be able to interact with you, that information is very viable. And we can see from Uber how they've been able to conglomerate all this information from the best paths people take around the different cities to the point where states like California and New York have been suing them to be able to get that information to be public source. That's something that Glimpse could be able to provide either as a service or for free to humanitarian aid organizations, to politicians, or to firms as well. And so to talk a little bit about our team, our CEO is actually my great friend Ethan Turner. He's out at the University of Drake. He's studying journalism and international business. I'm a civil engineering and architectural studies student at the University of Pittsburgh. My friend John, he's a D1 athlete running track along with Ethan over at Drake. He's studying international business as well as he's fluent in Spanish. And then our CTO, Mador, he's actually at the University of Pittsburgh with me. He's also studying electrical engineering and computer engineering with a computer science minor. And then my friend Chris Taylor is the Chief Marketing Officer over at University of Minnesota. And hopefully we can continue to build a team and get more help to be able to bring this to exactly what we want it to be. Thank you. So if you guys have any questions for me, I'm like open to criticism. However you think I can make this better.
This is a big idea. How you doing? So, nice presentation. Tell us how you get to that tipping point and start creating the network effects of starting to get that large audience of using this.
So it's almost like I remember when I was talking with you, me and Mador sat down with you last spring. It's kind of a catch-22. No one wants to use the product unless their friends are using it, and no one wants. And so that you run into a problem where I can't really justify it. So what we've really started doing is reaching out to content partners. Movements.org, who really likes to promote all these petitions. We're reaching out to we have people in Moscow, South Africa, as well as we're trying to close a deal with someone in the Czech Republic to be able to get content on the globe, because we understand that when there's viable content that people want to use, that's when you can attract users, and when there's international content, people will be drawn to it. So the tipping point, I can't really say, I don't really know, but at the end of the day, we know as we continue to generate numbers and we continue to put viable content on there, that's what's going to draw users.
Thank you.
Okay.
past summer, I spent like a week over in Drake. We were in a hatchery program over there. My friends John and Ethan were running that, and our advisor out there basically told us, you guys should just be the great conglomerate, just take content from everywhere and just throw it on your globe. And while that is like a solid venue to go about, you run into the problems of our content when it's like uploaded by user, they can check this has something to do with the environment. We can relate it to us to be useful for other users. If we have like just a boatload of information on there, you run into like information overload where it's the same thing as a scrolling newsfeed. It's like a lot of info, but half of it's not that relevant to me. But yeah, definitely something we've thought about. Definitely something that we can fine tune and we'd love to take over.
Could you explain the process if you know what happened, the tragedy in France a week ago, and I want to donate? So it pops up, here's the problem, it shows me on the globe, I think that's compelling. What's the mechanics to set up the ability to, so I want to get involved, what would I do with your application?
So hopefully for our 1.1, right now we're at 1.0, but we're going to have these certain features. So if you think of Facebook, you can hop on there, you can see the tragedy, you can go and comment on what you think that is.
Right.
Obviously we have a comment section, we can like it, but we have something called the concern button. And once you hit the concern button, it pushes out to a bunch of features, whether that's start a petition, contact local authorities, donate to humanitarian efforts that are happening at that location. And so it goes beyond the user, like it hits that 7.31 billion that we're saying. So even if you might only be able to access a computer once in a blue moon or something like that, you can have an impact on the world around you beyond just your small area, because I know I can impact what's happening in France. I can have a say in what's happening in Oklahoma. I can talk to a senator that's in California and say I want this and this to happen. So that's the venue we currently have. We're trying to add more features that concern button to really drive user interaction.
Thank you.
As a journalist, I really want this to exist. Users is a great tool to visualize world events in real time. Social activism, right? And I'm hearing you mostly talking in terms of sort of fundraising kind of things. As a tool for political organizing, like street protest level, you hear about the way that Twitter was used in the Arab Spring insurrections and things like that. It's kind of a double-edged sword in a lot of cases. It's a great way for people to connect with one another and organize politically. It's also in some cases a great way for regimes to kind of keep tabs on those same movements. What are your thoughts for dealing with those kind of problems? How are you going to get the countries that control online organizing?
Yeah, so that's the biggest problem. Our CEO is a really big fan of internet.org. He's been saying that they don't have internet in their country, will black out their country, so everyone knows that that's a problem. And I feel I don't necessarily think it's going to solve the problem of whether or not we're getting in North Korea, stuff like that, but regimes that are going to be able to monitor different looks and everything like that. We did move away from having every single video be geolocated. You can't upload video, and so pretend I'm in a situation where I can't necessarily I don't necessarily want to live stream. I don't want my personal safety to be at risk. You can record it at that point in time, go to a different location where that's safer, and then upload it at that point in time. So yes, it kind of pulls away from the whole geolocation part, but it gives that feature so people can upload content and still going to be in a location that is relevant.
So I love the idea of this kind of geo-position X, right, whatever you want it to be. And you have it on a global scale now. I could also see this being something really amazing on a city scale, like focusing into something like New York City or Pittsburgh, or for relief efforts that people are able to post events, but we can see it on a city scale of how people are interacting with one another. Is there a vision to be able to do it on this kind of localized level that's in ways bigger but also smaller than what you're thinking of on a global scale?
So yeah, I've definitely been talking about the whole macro level, but
yeah.
On a micro level, there's an application out there called Wander. It's like one of my friend Chris Taylor's his close friend, and it deals with being able to have if there's a local event happening in your surrounding area, it can kind of have alerts for that kind of stuff. And so we've been talking with them. We don't necessarily know if that's something we want to add early stage because it's going to be a lot to work with, but definitely being able to have understand events that are happening on the local level or being able to have that community interaction is going to be a big part of it, because oftentimes you do care and you want to know what's happening around the world, but what's most relevant to you is that local base.
Well, if there are no more questions, thank you so much for being here.
then when I navigate over to this is just the perspective globe, and so it's just the videos that have been uploaded in 24 hours. Let's see. So our CFO is currently up in Costa Rica. I'm not getting service in here. So my service is not that good in here. I guess you see the point, but yes. There's like the comment section, you can flag videos. We currently have you able to share videos with on Twitter. We're going to add more things, but as you see right here, if I can play. It's not going to play for me, but okay, yeah. If you see the top corner right here, the concern button, that's going to be what we're going to be adding those features from in the next the next version. So that's going to be, yes, you can like it, you can comment, but that's going to be where the features and options are going to drop down from.
Thank you again for coming out tonight, everybody. That is the end of the presentations, but we've got a good 15 minutes. Eat all the food that's over there and speak to each other and enjoy yourselves. And thanks again.